An outpouring of support at a South Korean art festival leads to a name change in Taiwan's favor. Satellite images show China has built a new structure in the disputed South China Sea. Just what are all these foreign flag ships doing loitering off Taiwan's coast?
来几天，然后停在那边几天之后又走了，过几天又过来了，这种情况都比较多的是应该在收集情资。
Plus, a new survey shows majority support for restarting nuclear power in Taiwan ahead of a critical vote in November. Good evening and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Eric Gao. A major art exhibition in South Korea has agreed to let Taiwan use its preferred name for its pavilion after a weeks-long dispute. Our reporter Reese Ayers spoke to the Taiwanese curator about this result.
Taiwan will be able to use its own name at the upcoming Gwangju Biennale in South Korea, following a dispute with the exhibition's organizers over how the country's pavilion should be identified. The Culture Ministry says it was originally agreed for Taiwan to appear at the exhibition as the Taiwan Pavilion, but that organizers later began referring to it as NT MOFA, the acronym for the National Taiwan Museum of Fine Arts, without prior discussion or notice. The Gwangju Biennale Foundation said Taiwan was always going to participate as an institutional pavilion. For Taiwan Pavilion's curator Chen Xiangwen, the lack of a clear explanation was frustrating.
那我们也不清楚这个背后是不是有任何的政治问题，或者是一些主办单位这边的调整的原因，因为我们一直要不到真正的答案，所以这个问题就变得越来越严重。
The country often takes part in international events under institutional names or Chinese Taipei rather than Taiwan due to pressure from China, which claims the country as its own. But after an outpouring of support for the Taiwanese artists, including from almost half of the other participating pavilions, the organizers have now agreed to allow the name Taiwan Pavilion at the exhibition, as well as in official documents and promotional materials.
这几天是非常重要的转折点，有韩国在地的朋友们的协助，然后同时也有更多国际的友人和我们站在一起。
Taiwan's Culture Ministry says the resolution means more than simply getting Taiwan's name back. It says support from artists and cultural figures in Korea and around the world demonstrates a shared commitment to freedom, democracy, and the Gwangju spirit, referring to the force behind the city's 1980 uprising against military dictatorship. The Gwangju Biennale opens September 5th, with Taiwan's artists now set to take the stage under the name they fought to keep. Justin Wu and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Satellite imagery shows China has built a new structure in a disputed part of the South China Sea. Reuters reports the structure is on Yagong Island near Lingyang Reef, also known as Antelope Reef, which is claimed by Taiwan, China, and Vietnam. Analysts say it could be an early warning radar facility to support further military buildup on the island. China recently finished the first part of a suspected military base on the reef, which could play a role in a conflict over Taiwan. Now, to learn more about the implications of China's military development on Yagong Island and Antelope Reef, our reporter Alan Liu spoke with Phoebe Pham, a visiting researcher at the Institute for National Defense and Security Research.
Based on the latest satellite imagery, do you think the new installations on Yagong Island could be an early warning radar facility? And if so, what military functions could it have?
Yagong is possibly an early warning radar facility, but we should really look at the historical pattern of China. And China's historical pattern has been to not simply build these islands, but to also convert that geography into a layered network of surveillance, of logistics, and military operations. And so if we're looking at smaller South China Sea features, and how China has successfully been able to extend their surveillance, communications, command and control coverage around these larger outposts, there is a very clear precedent that there is Chinese movement in developing a wider set of radar, of antenna, of a lighthouse and observation facilities across these smaller Spratly and Parcel features.
Looking at the new installations and construction China has made in the South China Sea recently, what does this tell us about China's evolving and broader military strategy in the region?
Looking at the movements with Yagung and Antelope, the historical pattern is that China builds options before it deploys the most visible of its consequential capabilities. And so Yagung might be this complementary piece where it is part of a broader sensor and communications node that supports a nearby facility. And so they fit together, building a distributed dual-use network that, by the way, also improves China's presence in peacetime and expands its choices in a crisis or across Taiwan conflict.
Military facilities in the South China Sea could play an important support role in a potential Taiwan conflict. So how should Taiwan assess the latest development and be better prepared?
I would caution away from seeing this as a new single site that determines a future conflict. But the Taiwan Strait, the East China Sea, the Western Pacific, they all remain principal theaters. And this new addition of added surveillance, of added communications redundancy, of maritime support capacity and pressure on sea lanes would sort of create a new layer of challenge for Taiwan because of these China's established outposts. And so the objective for Taiwan is not to assume that conflict is imminent, but it's that Taiwan's defense planning needs to reflect that full regional operational environment.
That was Phoebe Pham, a visiting researcher at INDSR. In previous broadcasts, TaiwanPlus has already examined the movements, identities, and histories of suspicious foreign flag vessels lingering off Taiwan's coast. But what risks could they pose to Taiwan? In this final part of our special report, we spoke with officials and experts to find out. First, we take a closer look at a suspicious vessel, the Magician 66, its activities, which have raised questions amid conflicting information.
This is a very odd ship because we've noticed that wherever the Magician 66 goes, what appears to be a second ship, the Magician 66, often goes too.
The two often move in tandem and appear almost on top of each other. On closer inspection, one analyst says the Magician 66 and Magician 66 appear to be two separate AIS transponders on the same ship, which some ships do to create confusion about their activities.
Because they're inseparable, right? So ships don't travel in tandem, they don't travel sort of side by side. That's obviously been an extremely dangerous thing to even try to do, and there's no reason to do it, right? So if they're broadcasting from the same location, and what'll show up on AIS is basically an encounter, and so this shows up as a long, unstoppable series of encounters wherever the ship goes. And so that says to me that the equipment is on the same ship. It's only one ship.
It gets weirder. Every ship of a certain size is assigned a permanent and unique number by the International Maritime Organization, an identifier that isn't shared by any other ship. But the Magician 66 does appear to share an ID number, with a vessel known as the Skywave. That ship was sanctioned by the US for its involvement in transporting Iranian oil, and was reportedly seized by the US recently.
So what should we make of all these ships and of this cluster? One analyst told us that it's been here for years and that it appears to be a kind of nexus for various illicit activities.
One is the smuggling of frozen meat products into China. A second is regional oil smuggling, and some of that regional oil smuggling is diverted to North Korea, often in contravention and violation of UN Security Council sanctions. That's not to say that all vessels in that location or loitering in that location are involved in illegal or smuggling activity, but that is kind of a watering hole for them.
Analysts told us that these vessels lingering off Taiwan shores could pose a threat to the rule of law. It's also possible they could pose national security threats, including collecting intelligence.
来几天，然后停在那边几天之后又走了，过几天又过来了，这种情况都比较多的是应该在收集情资。 那个地方离冈山我们的空军基地非常近。那我们的冈山还有我们的高雄左营军港，都是我们的海空军的最重要的一个据点。那个地方是属于我们台湾的内水。
At a time of heightened cross-strait tensions, and given Beijing's history of using civilian vessels like fishing boats to achieve state goals, some analysts say there's a risk these vessels could also be tapped by China for certain types of gray zone activity. But despite the threats they could pose, ships appear to have little fear of consequences here.
So the fact that they remain there likely says that they feel safe there and that they are not going to be, boarded or seized by Taiwanese Coast Guard or fined for any of their activities.
So what are authorities doing about the constant presence of this large cluster of foreign flagships off their shores, some with unusual movement patterns and various risk factors? In a statement to TaiwanPlus, Taiwan's Coast Guard said it's monitoring FOC vessels around the clock, boarding some high-risk ships and ordering them to leave. It drove away 240 vessels in the first half of this year. The Maritime and Port Bureau says it has also increased safety inspection of ships under the 5 high-risk flags. But it says its role is to check compliance, not investigate illegal activity. Despite the efforts, these ships are still present, and what we know about them could be just the tip of the iceberg. It's clear some ships' activities are not normal, raising concerns for Taiwan's waters and its security. The bigger questions linger: who is really behind them, and what their true purpose is in waters so close to Taiwan.
That was the final part of our special report. You can watch the full story on the TaiwanPlus website or by checking out our social media. Vice President Bi Khim-hsiao says building up Taiwan's drone defenses is vital to deterring a Chinese invasion.
不排除当初普丁在决定要去用武装来侵略乌克兰的时候，我们不排除他也是有误判，也就是说过度自信自以为很快就能够拿下乌克兰，所以他做出了这个决定。那我们其实也不能够让北京政权误判台湾自我防卫的决心。
Hsiao made those comments in an interview with Taiwan's central news agency. It comes as a $6.6 billion special drone budget remains stalled in the legislature. Hsiao warns that if Taiwan fails to strengthen its asymmetric defenses, Beijing could take that as a signal to invade. She also notes that the business potential and non-military uses for drones. Foreign Minister Ling Jialong will lead a delegation to Palau to attend events related to this year's Pacific Islands Forum. The Foreign Ministry says Ling will take part in a discussion with the bloc's member states. He will also visit an exhibition showcasing Taiwan's development projects in the Pacific, including initiatives in renewable energy, climate adaptation, and smart healthcare. He is scheduled to meet with Palauan President Surengo Whips Jr. and hold sideline exchanges with other delegations. Taiwan has participated in Pacific Islands Forum summit events as a development partner since 1993. It was excluded from last year's gathering when all non-member states were not invited, including the U.S. and China. And coming up after the break, TaiwanPlus celebrates its 5th anniversary by teaming up with Japan's NHK for a wild new documentary.
For more stories from Taiwan, Palau, and the rest of the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
There's so many things that I wish the world could see.
It is amazing to watch this captain maneuver this giant ship.
It takes 3 days to cook this. The flavor is unbelievable, incredible.
And it's my turn to make something inspired by Chef Gore. It's going to be quite a challenge.
Can you imagine that?
It's surreal. Yes, so real.
I can't give up. I got some ass kicking to do.
Nice move.
We're pushing each other to explore and experiment in new, different ways.
5, 4, 3,
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News.
Exploring the issues that matter to you.
Not just to Taiwan, the whole world is watching.
很多时候是我们眼睛看不到的地方。
We might encounter mishaps and mistakes along the way. But at the end of the day,
it just transmits something straight from the heart. Yes.
谢谢 Cheers.
Bon appetit. It is about the fun and it's about the glamour and it's also about something much deeper than that.
Sometimes you just gotta seize the opportunity. You just gotta do it.
Have a place where you're appreciated for you exactly as you are and where you can shine and be seen.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app and follow us on social media.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Canada says it is ready to respond dollar for dollar to new U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. John Van Trieste reports.
Canadian officials inspect some of the finished products inside an Ottawa steel plant. Since Saturday, when the U.S. slapped a 50% tariff on a range of Canadian products, steel included, Canadian producers have been under renewed pressure. The tariffs may only affect around 5% of Canada's U.S. exports, but they hit some vulnerable sectors like wood products. But Canada says it's hitting back.
Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariffs dollar for dollar, rate for rate. Effective September 8, Canada will impose counter tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America.
The tariffs will affect around 4.5% of U.S. imports into Canada. And they are strategic, designed not just to protect Canada, but to put pressure on the Trump administration ahead of midterms in November. For those at home, the message from Ottawa is to keep buying Canadian.
If you see a Canadian product, please support it. Because what is really important from this new chapter of the trade war is that actually when you choose a Canadian product, you're not only putting pressure on the U.S. Right now, you're protecting jobs.
U.S. President Donald Trump has traded insults with Ontario Premier Doug Ford. Trump dismissed claims that he has been trying to undermine the French language in Canada, a reference to U.S. requests for English-only packaging. And he's floated the idea of renaming Lake Ontario Lake America. And U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance says Canada is letting in third-country products for transshipment to dodge U.S. tariffs.
We know that Canada allows itself to be used as a backdoor for Chinese goods. They treat Chinese goods more fairly than they do the goods that come from the people of Maine. It's insanity. And what we've said to Canada is stop it.
As the trade war escalates, people on both sides of the border are reacting.
Canadian sovereignty is the kind of in the background here. So sure, I think it's definitely an insult to Canadians. I think it's an insult to our alliance has been going back for decades. They're our closest ally. They're right up the border, and it's bizarre.
It's hurting us, of course. We're doing the best we can to buy Canadian products. Unfortunately, tourism, we don't go there anymore, like a lot of us. There's other places, and I don't know, he's not going to be in presidency forever, but as far as the tariffs go, we'll survive.
What comes next will be a test for an old neighborly friendship under stress. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Global demand for AI drove Taiwan's industrial production index to a record high in July, jumping 25% since last year. Government data shows the manufacturing sector, which makes up most of that index, rose almost 27%. Computers and optical products surged more than 95%, while semiconductors and electronic components gained over 22%. Sectors feeding the AI supply chain, such as machinery and metals, also saw steady growth. However, chemicals and automotives both dropped by around 5%. Officials expect overall growth to continue through August. And Taiwan's AI boom is also driving a surge in electricity demand, reigniting debate over how the country generates power. As voters prepare to weigh in on nuclear energy later this year, a new poll suggests concerns over energy security are growing. Ai-Chi reports.
As Taiwan faces growing power demand and rising energy costs, questions are mounting over how the country can keep the lights on while maintaining energy security. A new nationwide survey by Business Today found that about 70% of respondents support restarting nuclear power plants and developing next-generation nuclear technologies after being asked to weigh factors including safety, generation capacity, and deployment timelines.
其实有超过68%的民众是支持重启核电的。那进一步这一次比较新的一个结果是，我们也询问了 SMR， 就是新型的这种小型的核能，有超过70%的民众其实是表达支持的，尤其南部跟离岛的支持度最高。
Taiwan became nuclear-free in 2025 when its last operating reactor was shut down. But nuclear power once supplied nearly 20% of the country's electricity. Now, as the AI boom dries up demand for power, voters will decide in November whether to support a nuclear comeback. As a stable energy supply becomes a key pillar of Taiwan's growth, Premier Tai says the government is open to new nuclear technologies, such as small modular reactors, and is assessing the restart of a nuclear power plant.
因此，在2025年今年的预算当中，我们就有一部分的预算是在讨论 SMR。我们的讨论 SMR 是进入到想跟国际先进的技术的讨论接轨。
Taiwan imports about 95% of its energy and depends heavily on overseas supplies of oil, natural gas, and coal. The survey found more than 80% of respondents support accelerated power development, as concerns grow over the country's ability to meet rising demand from the tech sector. But whether that support translates into votes later this year remains to be seen. Ryan Wu, NIT for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's endangered white dolphins are facing renewed pressure, with conservationists warning that a new construction project is threatening their habitat and could push them closer to extinction. Yvonne Young has more.
Conservationists staged a protest hoping to stop land reclamation work at the Port of Taichung. They say the construction work threatens the habitat of the already endangered Taiwanese white dolphin.
这个案子有很大的争议，3月的时候我们就揭露了，它规避环评、规避野保的审查，现在又要配合行政院要解决废土之乱。 所以呢，就要许可中部5县市的营建剩余土石方，在9月起要用来填海造陆。
Protesters are worried more than just dirt and rock will be used in the project. They say construction waste may contain debris and pollutants that could threaten the dolphins.
他们的压力会增加，然后这些压力会影响到他们的健康，降低他们游泳的速度跟觅食的效率。 会增加他们被船舶撞击的风险。
An official from the Transportation Ministry, which is in charge of the port, came out to accept a protest group's petition.
我们会在会同那个港公司跟环境部，再就今天那个协会的这些诉求的部分，再依法审慎演绎啊，然后再做一个妥善的回应。
With only a few dozen of the dolphins left in the wild, conservationists are hoping for a win here to keep Taiwan's waters safe for this critically endangered species. Devin Tsai, Ted Chen, and Yvonne Yang for TaiwanPlus.
Sunday will mark 5 years since TaiwanPlus was established. Ahead of that, the platform is screening its new flagship documentary. Leslie Liao has more, and this story concerns TaiwanPlus, which is a publicly funded news outlet.
An inside look at Taiwan's vast mountain ecosystem. This documentary, called Satoyama Wild Neighbors, has been 2 years in the making. It's a joint effort between TaiwanPlus, Taiwan's public television service, and Japan's NHK. The film was screened for audiences in Taipei to celebrate TaiwanPlus's 5th anniversary. Satoyama refers to the area where foothills meet the plains, creating a landscape where people and nature coexist.
In Japan, Satoyama is not just about pure nature. It's about the environment where people live together with nature, in harmony with the environment where people live.
Satoyama Wild Neighbors showcases Taiwan's unique natural environment and reflects TaiwanPlus's mission to connect audiences with the stories that shape the country.
很重要的一个观点就是跟全球的这个观众，大家对于共同关心的事物，比如像环境生态，比如像文化发展，比如像这个政治的这个议题，我们都能够透过一种最自然的方式，以及最符合国际专业的方式来进行交流。
TaiwanPlus was founded in 2021 as the country's first English-language public media platform. Taiwan's public television service oversees its operation, and its goal is to help spread Taiwan's cultural footprint and presence across the world. Now, 5 years on, the platform is looking to the future.
那我们觉得在未来的5年当中，很重要的就是如何把 TaiwanPlus 成为国际间非常重要的一个国际交流的品牌。 这个我想是我们非常需要努力的。
Satoyama Wild Neighbors represents that TaiwanPlus brand, a distinctly Taiwanese story done in collaboration with regional partners, made for a global audience. Hank Xu and Leslie Liao in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave with images of dancers competing at the World Tango Championship in Buenos Aires. I'm Eric Al. Take care. Have a good evening.